In just over a 2-week period, both Steve Mira and myself, Barry Fitzgerald, travelled enough miles to take us completely around this planet, and then some, in an attempt to find answers. Scientific answers to finally solve that age-old question if we are truly alone in this universe. The results are in, and this is our story.
In June 2017, the internet exploded with images and video of a mysterious mummy discovered in South America. It has become known as the three-fingered hybrid. But what do we really know about this discovery? My name's Steve Mira, and I'm an investigative researcher based here in the UK. Join me and my cameraman and fellow researcher Barry Fitzgerald as we travel to the Southern Hemisphere and uncover the mysteries surrounding this discovery, securing much more information and interviewing the people that bore this explosive find. And you can see the rib cage. It looks like it's manufactured the arm length down here to its lower than its knees, and of course the feet at the bottom. This is a side profile of that particular x-ray of the body, again confirming that this is in fact been manufactured. Yeah, they have like a gold implant. So what we're dealing with here is three hands, and what we've been told is that they seem to have some type of implant on top of them, and as we can see, we'll get some close-ups, but as we can see there is a design. It looks like it's gold in coloration, some type of pattern right across the bridge of the hand, and the same for this one. Looks like these two seem to have that marking and this one doesn't. But as you can tell from these, they're very similar, three fingers, and of course we're dealing with, again, a number of extra bones. We're dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they do look to have six with a six at the 6 is the tip. We're looking at two skulls here, and as you can see, the biggest difference here is the elongation, because we've all seen skulls probably from monkeys before, and as you can see, the long elongation, which is something unusual, though they do have the size of from the front of monkey, but they're very large eye sockets. It does have this long elongation. Apart from that, it does seem to have some cranial ridges. We have a centre cranial ridge, and we have two cranial arches coming round on either side, and that's exactly the same for this one, which is almost identical, to be honest with you. There's not much difference between them. We are told that there's something that's inside of this, maybe a little part of the vertebrae, maybe a little bit of bone, but also on this particular one, what we can see is the first part of the vertebrae as we can see here. We'll take some close-up shots of these. Yeah, and probably similar in weight. Okay, what's interesting about these particular x-rays of the two skulls that we've just been looking at is that the first thing that is interesting, but I want you to know the elongation of these skulls, because this is one of the biggest mysteries about these skulls, is it's purely its shape and the cranial ridging. You can see from the cranial ridging, and you can also see what looks to be some type of membrane on both skulls as it's shaped at the back. And also you can clearly see the jawbone in there, but again, like I mentioned, no teeth. Looks to be large eyes, and we're not too sure what these are, what this represents in the scans, in these x-rays. It has been suggested that there may be some type of metal plates in there. It's a little bit unsure, not too sure. And you can see the centre position here to the vertebrae, and of course causing the skull to be able to be regularly balanced properly. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a secondary body, a little bit longer and larger than the first one that we saw tonight.
Steve thought it prudent to measure the body, which was 25.5 inches long, and at its widest point between the shoulders was a meagre 7.5 inches wide.
Now what's interesting is, from what we looked at earlier with the two previous small skulls, is that this looks to have the same type of skull that we've recently just seen, but in fact attached to the body in this occasion. And if we actually take a measure of this, and we know what we were measuring from last time, is that is coming in at 70 millimeters, which is roughly around about the same size as the previous two skulls, with the same type of cranial ridging, the large eye sockets, and we can see the central point from vertebrae and that long elongation of the head. It's also interesting to note that we've been told from the x-rays that have been carried out is that it looks to have a skeletal a neck which may have been a bit adjustable, or which may have got shorter and larger. It's interesting to note on its legs that its right hip joint seems to have what is referred to as an implant or some type of mechanism in there, similar to what you probably find in elderly people when they have some type of hip replacement or something of that degree. It's got I have to admit though, it's got a very, very unusual posture, because it doesn't look like nothing I've ever seen before, to be honest with you, the way this is designed here at the top. Very, very straight, very broad, very unusual rib cage. Again, like most of the other things that we've been seeing tonight, has this covering of this white powder. As to what that is still a mystery, and apparently waiting on analysis to come back to confirm what that consists of. So what we're seeing here on the x-ray for this particular body is an oversized clavicle bone here, as you can see across the tops here. Also, what is interesting is that it doesn't seem to have any ball joints to the top part of its arm, so we're not too sure how that would have actually moved or manoeuvred around. Also, what's interesting is that it looks like the bones are knitted, so which would suggest that it is in fact more of an adult than it is a child. And the absence of being able to fit lungs in, we have to ask the question, how did this creature breathe? There doesn't seem to be any evidence of a nasal passage either. So either this is a completely manufactured creature, or it may be something that we've so profound we don't know what it is, and it may not have required oxygen. It may not have been breathing oxygen. We just don't know. We can see obviously the obvious deformity in the hip, and what looks to be the X-ray capturing a metallic implant or something that's been placed in the hip to maybe strengthen it. It does look like there's an abnormality there. And of course the long neck as well. Very interesting, but really I've not seen anything that's really has grabbed me. But nevertheless though, we're going to have to wait for the analysis to come back to confirm is this any known creature at all. A bit of a mystery at this moment in time, but as for the x-rays, I'm not very convinced on this particular one, but Who knows? We could be looking at something that we couldn't possibly fathom in our minds, or in fact something which has been again manipulated. So what we're dealing with here is a second body, and looks more or less similar in size, though we are told that this represents a female of this species. Notice again the same size, roughly cranium, the same sort of arching and face features, central position on the vertebrae, slightly shorter neck in this case. But what is most interesting is that it looks like to be some type of implant there, which is metal, which we can clearly identify that on the x-rays. Not too sure what that is, but what also is probably the most significant thing about this is that it does look to have a raised stomach area, and apparently according to the x-rays it would look like there are 3, by all intents and purposes, eggs in there, indicating that this species, or whatever this is, may have been reptilian in nature. Nevertheless though, the only characteristical differences between these two is that one seems to have a more longer neck, and this particular one seems to have these metal implant, and of course this raised abdomen area where apparently it's housing 3, well, it looks like 3 eggs. Very interesting x-ray, this particular one. What we're actually looking at is what looks to be the implant, which is across this chest area, and also what looks to be the housing of 3 eggs. What's interesting, you can actually see the bone structures through the eggs. They are transparent somewhat, which is what you might expect from eggs being placed inside a body. You can see that the figure, the bone structure, seems a lot more complete in this particular x-ray. Again, doesn't look to be housing any lungs. And of course, if they are eggs, we have to question, would this be reptilian in nature? Would seem to be, according to the bone structure, that she is in fact an adult. So the absence of ball joints, again, in the lower part of the pelvis, again, are obviously missing. And it does have, again, the 3 fingers, which are very prominent, and the 3 toes. And of course, again, still remains a mystery. Okay, we're looking at the third body here, and of course its absence of a head, unfortunately. But what is probably the most interesting of all the 3 bodies is this particular one in a sitting posture, which gives us maybe some idea of, if this was a real creature, how it would have maybe moved around. Again, stereotypical here of the 3 fingers and the 3 toes, the sitting posture, what looks to be a vertebrae. And what's very interesting about this is that there does seem to be some form of skin. Also on top we can see what looks to be the 2 side muscles holding the support of the neck muscles. Analysis has taken place on this. 2 independent analysts confirmed, one from Mexico, one from the United States, that this is over 1,000 years of age. And as you can see from that sitting posture, you can see what looks to be like a vertebrae coming down. You can see the very clear bone structures throughout its arms, hands, legs, and of course feet. Not too sure at this moment in time if this x-ray represents if it has any visible ball joints here in its hips. It's currently unknown. Again, from its sizing and its position, probably around about the 24 inches size, like the other 2 bodies. Again, a mystery.
Suddenly everything changed as we were introduced to Maria. So what we're actually looking at here is
something completely in a different ballpark than what we've been shown earlier. By all intents and purpose, we're looking at a body estimated to be 1,800 years old, I believe, from the analysis that's currently taking place, and in a fetal position. Bone structure, anatomy, legs look reasonably normal, arms look reasonably normal, until we come to the extremities. The extremities seem to show only 3 digits, 3 toes, no thumbs. Of course, these acting as balancers. We can see that there's also, which is very interesting, toenails, which we can see on the toes. We've also got dermal ridging, like fingerprints on the bottom of the feet, possibly also on the hands. Samples have been currently taken. Now, this is a female, was initially thought to be a male, referred to as Albert or Alberto, but it is a female and now referred to as Maria. Estimated size around about 5'6". Currently, there's analysis taking place, DNA analysis taking place to ascertain is she fully human or not. What we're actually looking at here, Barry, is of course the X-ray of Maria, who we've just been examining. Clearly massive differences here, massive differences. We can clearly see the ball joints, which is a very human trait, obviously, in arms and legs. We can clearly also see the vertebrae and the backbone, and this is the legs coming up in its sitting position, in its fetal position. And across here, very faintly, you can actually see the fingers, which you can see consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 4 sections, slightly different than what else we've seen here, but nevertheless, though, extremely long. And they do look like connected bone as well. I can't see anything here that leads me to believe it's been anatomically altered in any way. Your attention please from now on to electronic devices here in mode.
In the last few months, the alleged discovery of extraterrestrial mummies in our country has been publicised through an irresponsible, organised disinformation campaign. Testimonies and published images of this case allow to assert that these findings correspond undoubtedly to pre-Columbian human remains, cultural patrimony of the nation, maliciously manipulated and even mutilated to obtain an ad hoc appearance for commercial exploitation. Moreover, the exclusion of the entire related archaeological context is absolutely contrary to the scientific investigation of this kind of cultural finds. It is upon our authorities to make the corresponding accusations, since this production has numerous national and international norms that watch for the defence of cultural heritage. We hope these same authorities will seek the protection and correct investigation of these remains and their place of origin in order to stop looting and trafficking of human remains. We also expect exemplary sanctions for those responsible of this depredation of heritage that is of all Peruvians and humanity as a whole. Finally, the criminal abuse of corpses for petty ends violates human dignity in a profound way. Thus, exploitation of pre-Columbian mummies carried out by this organization attacks and particularly offends the Andean culture, implying that its achievements were due to an illegal alien aid. We offer our best offices to collaborate with the authorities to demonstrate our statements in the corresponding instances. We also offer to participate in activities that would defend our patrimony and help educate the public about our ancestors and their legacy.
Professional opinion. Have you found any unusualities, anything strange?
Sí, encontré muchas particularidades que las hacen totalmente diferentes. A primera vista, pareciera ser un cuerpo normal, pero ya tomando detalle de cada uno de los segmentos del cuerpo, de la anatomía del cuerpo, se ven diferentes anomalías, como por ejemplo la cabeza es más grande, los ojos son más amplios, la nariz es más pequeña, no tiene oídos, el número de vértebras es menor al del ser humano, la distribución de los huesos es distinta, es más amplia. El número de dedos es de 3, igual en el miembro pélvico, en las piernas, y en los pies es también de 3 dedos. Esas diferencias son las más relevantes, aunque hemos podido encontrar datos más finos y detallados, como por ejemplo el número de falanges o el tamaño del lecho unguial de la uña.